I'm George from Ireland. Well, Rishi Sunak has passed a certain milestone, but it's not been commented on by very many people because today he's been Prime Minister for 49 days. So he's just outlasted Liz Truss, assuming he's still as Prime Minister tomorrow morning. Um, so, yeah, not a hard record to beat. So he will not go down in ignominy as she is as the shortest serving prime minister. And there's no talk of getting rid of him, although there's muttering in the Tory ranks. Because what an in tray he faced. Yeah, but he has at least reduced some of these problems, and that was quite form poison chalice. Why some people might thought he might have even gone for it. Remember, inflation has gone down just a little. The pound has regained value significantly. So he's calmed the markets. There's been a bit of a restoration of sanity and normality. But there are some serious structural problems, some long term problems, which would tax even the ablest prime minister. At least unemployment is very low. But inflation is still its worst for 40 years more. Taxes are their highest for over 70 years. Economic growth, well, it's actually into the negative on the third quarter of this year. The fourth quarter statistics haven't come out yet. That's probably going to be negative as well. That would be Britain in recession officially. Q1 2023 is it going to start growing? Maybe, but even then, not by much. Energy prices are eye-wateringly high. Strikes by nurses, by railway workers, by postal workers, by airport workers, civil servants are talking about going on strike, maybe doctors. So there are multiple problems. Because of inflation, everybody wants a pay rise, and he's been on record. Rishi Sunak said we must not do that. We have to have a wage restraint. It's the only way to get inflation down, or it's going to impoverish all of us. So if you do not increase salaries, you're going to get more and more strikes. That's going to slow economic growth. So there are just so many headaches to deal with. Now, as for Labour, it's easy to snipe from the sidelines, but how are you going to solve this? If a Labour government comes in 2 years' time, they can't wave a magic wand and make it all go away. There's a bit more goodwill amongst the trade unions for Labour. Remember, the Labour Party grew out of trades unions. Some of them fund Labour, but nevertheless, they still want a pay rise under Labour. And the cupboard is bare. There's just no money for that. The government's having to spend more money looking after Ukrainian refugees, beefing up the military. There are multiple problems. With subsidizing energy prices. So where on earth is the money going to come from? Then there's an increasing tide of illegal immigrants coming across the English Channel. There's talk of a blanket ban on people from Albania. Say Albania is a safe country. No, you're going to be rejected automatically. Turns out the United Kingdom is much more likely to accept the claims of asylum seekers from Albania than other nearby European countries are. But the refugee industry, those who make their money out of advocating for illegal immigration, they're saying, oh, this is inhumane. So there's an enormous asylum backlog, something like 117,000 outstanding claims. These claims often take over a year to handle. They cost several £1,000s at least to deal with. Sometimes they've offered people a few £1,000s just to leave, to go home, so them take it. Is a saving of money. So anyway, there's dangerous overcrowding in some of the detention facilities. So 40,000 people illegally crossed the English Channel in 2022 thus far. That's the highest figure since records began. Admittedly, records only get out back to 2018, but nevertheless, it's probably much higher now than it was in any previous year. So 35% of those who are coming are from Albania. Why is it as many more Albanians who are coming than anyone else? Of course, there's some Albanians who come legally, who come to the United Kingdom lawfully, not remotely anti-Albanian. You can be an Albanian and a fantastic person. But obviously, I am against illegal immigration, and I realise illegal immigrants are mostly not evil. Were our situations reversed, I might do what they're doing. They're seeking a better life. And apparently they're briefed by the smuggling gangs. This is the story you tell to maximise your chance of being allowed to stay in the United Kingdom. That you're persecuted, or that some gangsters are trying to kill you in your hometown. Of course, it might be true that maybe gangsters really are trying to kill them in their hometown. I don't know. So the backlog is enormous, partly because one of the few positive things about coronavirus is the relatively little illegal immigration, sorry. Over 100,000 outstanding claims. You go back to 2012, it was like 5,000, and it's going to get worse. So anyway, the Prime Minister said it's going to have 700 new staff to monitor boats crossing the English Channel. No longer will asylum seekers be put up in hotels. So there are going to be some disused holiday parks to house them, former student halls, some disused military accommodation to house 10,000 individuals. There are going to be a lot more asylum caseworkers to try and deal with these. Anyway, he says he's going to change the law to make it crystal clear that if you enter the United Kingdom illegally, you shan't be allowed to stay. Well, I doubt they're going to follow up on that. They are going to make some exemptions. Anyway, the Labour leader, he castigated this, saying, this is says it's ridiculous, and he highlighted the supposed unworkability of the Prime Minister's proposition. Anyway, so the chair of the House of Commons Home Affairs Committee said there simply aren't enough staff to deal with the backlog. That's probably true. But what is Labour's policy? I've seen left-wing protests open the borders. That's not necessarily Labour policy, but then you wouldn't have 40,000 people coming illegally a year. You'd have 400,000 more. Now, immigration can be a fantastic thing. It can occasionally be a bad thing. You just have to have sensible numbers. Anyway, so that is a difficult issue that he's got to deal with. The NHS seems to be falling apart. It's just underfunded. There aren't enough doctors. There aren't enough nurses. You hire agency doctors and nurses, and therefore that costs an awful lot more. So there are just multiple problems, and there's some restiveness amongst Conservative ranks. One of the big issues is should there be more wind turbines on land, even if local people object? Someone said, yes, we desperately need all the energy we can get because energy prices are so high, and plus because of climate change, and say no, it kills birds, and local people object to it, it's unsightly. I mean, I would simply lift all the restrictions and have them everywhere. When we've got more than enough energy, renewable energy, then we can afford to be fussy and shut a few down. But the situation is urgent now. It's just NIMBYism. So there are all sorts of problems. Okay, so anyway, more trade unions are likely to go on strike, and between now and Christmas, the railways been on strike most of the time. Admittedly, the rail strikes can't go on forever because the trade unions are going to start running out of money. People pay their union, the union invests the pension, whatever this pot is. Because remember, the days you're on strike, you don't get paid by your employer, you get paid by your trades union, but that will soon run out. So, I think sometime in January that will begin to peter out. And ironically, it hits the lowest paid, who often can't get to work, taking so much longer to get to work, costs them more to get to work. And then people who would go to shops and restaurants and pubs, they don't go because of this, because of transport's so difficult, which hits those businesses. Anyway, so there are no easy ways to deal with these problems. And Rishi Sunak, his honeymoon, I think, is well and truly over. Conservatives are well behind in the opinion polls, likely to sink further behind in the opinion polls, because we've just been 3 years since the last general election, going to the 4th year since the general election. We'll get up to sort of December 2023, and then the Conservative recovery will begin. Will it be enough to win the 2024 election? It's dubious, but that's the usual life cycle. Winning an election, shoot up your popularity honeymoon, then slowly decline over 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years, and then start to recover towards the next election. But is it enough for the governing party to win or not? Right, thank you so much for watching my channel. Goodbye.